Today, we saw the third youngest debut in F1 history. We saw some epic defense being played by Kevin Magnussen to help his teammate get into the points. And we saw another Max Verstappen victory. Yes, Max Verstappen won again, his 56th win of his career and his 100th career podium. So, that's a big number. It's his 9th win in a row, which ties him for second all-time in consecutive wins. He trails only himself when he won 10 straight last year. So if he can win at Australia, he will have won 10 straight, and he will have once again tied or broken a record. But the big story, the fun story of the day, Ollie Bearman subbing for Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, who had to miss half of this weekend or 2/3 of this weekend due to appendicitis, had to get his appendix removed and had to have surgery. As I said with the removed part, I guess that was implied. But Carlos Sainz ultimately missed the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. He missed FP3 in qualifying as well, which meant a last-second call-up to 18-year-old Ollie Bearman. Ollie Bearman, as I said, 18 years old, making his F1 debut for Ferrari of all teams. This wasn't like a call-up to Haas or, even a Sauber or anything. This is to Ferrari, the Ferrari, only 18 years old. And look, regardless of the team, whether it's Haas, Sauber, Williams, Ferrari, Red Bull, whoever it may be, when you're 18 years old and you get called up on Friday morning before qualifying to drive the car, there's not a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on you, but in terms of the results, in terms of the expectations, there's not a lot because it is so last minute, because it's Formula One, because it's Ferrari. There's a lot of eyeballs on you, but once again, there are not a lot of expectations. Now, people may have their expectations for sure, but in my opinion, look, the way he got called up, because it was in the middle of the race weekend, because he's been focused on his F2 season with his own team, and ultimately he's never driven this car. It's a very tough racetrack. I didn't have a lot of expectations. I'm not saying I expected him to qualify 20th, finish 20th, but I wasn't expecting him to, finish top 5. I thought the points were realistic, but he did a great job today. He ends up finishing 7th in his debut. He kept the car clean. He qualified 11th yesterday. So he is one of 3 Ferrari drivers to score a point this season. But ultimately, Ollie Bearman, an extremely impressive Formula One debut as he scores 6 points on debut. Yes, I know that Ferrari is a fast car this year, the second best car behind the Red Bull, but ultimately, for an 18-year-old who just made his debut, that was a great race from him. And he had a hard-charging Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris chasing him down in those closing laps on much better tires. The second biggest story, in my opinion, was Kevin Magnussen. Kevin Magnussen, he played some all-time great defense. And if it wasn't for 18-year-old Ollie Bearman making his debut, Kevin Magnussen should have won Driver of the Day. He played defense for at least 15 laps on Yuki Tsunoda, Alex Albon, Logan Sargent, and Esteban Ocon. For at least 15 laps, they were breathing down his neck. They were within DRS range of him, right on his gearbox, and they could not get by him. And you know what that did? That allowed Nico Hulkenberg, who was way up the road at first, I think it was like 6 or 7 seconds. Nico Hulkenberg, who did not pit under the safety car that happened at about lap 7, that allowed Nico Hulkenberg to drive out way ahead of Kevin Magnussen. That gap went from 6 to 10 to 15 to 20 to about 25 seconds. And Nico Hulkenberg was able to pit, get fresh tires, and come out ahead of every single one of those guys I just mentioned, including teammate Kevin Magnussen. And Nico Hulkenberg was able to score Haas's first point of the season. So ultimately, it was a great teamwork effort. Kevin Magnussen holding up the rest of the field, and then Nico Hulkenberg pulling away, getting a nice pit stop. The pit crew doing a great job of giving him a clean pit stop, getting out ahead, and getting Haas's first point of the season. Expectations were low for Haas this season. I had them finishing last in the Constructors. They are not looking like a last in the Constructors team right now. Yes, it's only 1 point. It's only one race. But Haas has looked actually pretty solid. And ultimately, that's all they may have to do to not finish last or even second to last in the Constructors. Whereas right now, there's another team, Alpine, who's looking pretty rough. let's look at the results of this race. Max Verstappen's your winner. Do I really need to say more? It's win number 56. He can't catch Michael Schumacher this year on the all-time wins list. He's just sitting there in third by himself. Sergio Perez finishes second. A really good start to the year for Perez. He struggled at times last year, but back-to-back runner-up finishes. Qualifying, many people think he needs to improve qualifying, and in that Red Bull he does. But ultimately, he finishes second in back-to-back races on track, third and fifth in qualifying. He was the defending winner of this race last year. So ultimately, a solid result for Perez. He did what he had to do. Had a 5-second penalty for an unsafe release in front of Fernando Alonso, but it didn't matter. He was so much faster. Him and that Red Bull were so much faster than Leclerc and the Ferrari, who finished third. Charles Leclerc also got the fastest lap of the race, so he gets a bonus point for that. Solid race from Leclerc. He started third, he started second, finishes third. Back-to-back podiums for him. Good start for his season. Good start for Ferrari. They sit comfortably in second place in the Constructors. Obviously, it's only race 2, so it's not that comfortably, but, showing the speed that they've shown, the results that they've had, it's been a good start to the season. Actually, I was wrong. Charles Leclerc has not had back-to-back podiums this season, but Ferrari has because Carlos Sainz got that podium last week. So correction on me, I messed that up. But Charles Leclerc, his first podium of the season. Ferrari's second podium of the season. Fourth place, Oscar Piastri. Really good job today. Was stuck behind Lewis Hamilton for a good chunk of laps, but was ultimately able to get by him after Hamilton pitted late in this race. Really good performance. No, it's not a podium, but it's a great result for McLaren. It's a great result for Piastri. Some early confidence in the season for him. Fifth place, Fernando Alonso. That's 4 different constructors in the top 5, which is really fun to see. Alonso did a good job today, just kind of sat in that 4th to 6th range the majority of the day and finishes 5th. Sixth place, George Russell, same story as Alonso. He was just kind of chilling there in that area. Ends up finishing 6th. Nothing too eventful, which is nice for him. He scores some points on the day. 7th place, Ollie Bearman. In his debut, at 18 years old, we've said that 20 times this video, but it's still extremely impressive to go up in the middle of a race weekend, drive the Ferrari for the first time, and to get himself 6 points to finish 7th. That's great for Ferrari in the constructor standings. It's a great weekend for Ferrari, despite Carlos Sainz being out. I'm not sure when he'll be back. I remember Albon a couple of years ago, he had appendicitis and had to miss a race. And of course, Nick de Vries got his debut. And then we had this giant snowball effect because of Alex Albon's appendix. So I guess we'll see what ultimately happens due to Carlos Sainz's appendix. But I'm getting sidetracked here. I don't know whether he'll be back for Australia in 2 weeks or not, but time will tell, obviously. 8th place, Lando Norris. Solid race from him. Scores some points. Finishes off of his teammate, yes. But good race for him. Good points for McLaren. Double points for McLaren. Double points for Mercedes, as well as Lewis Hamilton finishes 9th. Nico Hulkenberg picks up Haas's first point of the season and 10th, so he gets 1 whole point. And then our non-points finishers, Alex Albon 11th, 12th place. Kevin Magnussen played a lot of defense today. Now, on that restart on the safety car, he kind of crashed into Alex Albon a little bit, both obviously able to carry on. But he got a 10-second penalty for that, and then he got a 10-second penalty for passing off track, I think it was, or gaining an advantage, whatever the official wording is. And so he had a 20-second penalty at the end. He finished 11th on the track, but ultimately finishes 12th in the official results. And as I said, he played tremendous defense today. He did a great job for his teammate, Nico Hulkenberg. This is the definition of teamwork, guys. So good job to Kevin Magnussen. Helped his teammate score a point. 13th, Esteban Ocon. Alpine still struggles, but hey, 13th. Not bad. After how last week went, 13th. I think they'll take it. 14th, Yuki Tsunoda. A little bit of a frustrating day, I feel like. He was on Kevin Magnussen's rear bumper or gearbox the majority of this race, or for a good chunk of this race. And ultimately, he ends up losing a position to Albon, then he loses a position to Ocon, and, he just finishes 14th. I thought that he was a little bit better than that, but ultimately, Yuki finishes 14th, but he does beat his teammate, Daniel Ricciardo. 15th, Logan Sargent. He was in that DRS train sitting behind Kevin Magnussen. couldn't do much with it. Started 19th on the grid, so he did move up, but ultimately 15th for him. 16th for Daniel Ricciardo. Had a late spin in this race, just kind of spun around, no damage. Finished 16th, kind of irrelevant today. 17th, Valtteri Bottas. 18th, Zhou Guanyu. 19th, Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll on lap 7 aggressively cut the corner. He didn't miss the turn. Well, he did technically miss the turn, but he didn't fully cut the corner. It's just the wall is really close to the curb, and he turned it a little bit too much, clipped the inside wall, broke some things on the front suspension, and he went straight into the barrier. The funniest part, though, is his team did not have a visual on him, and Stroll said he hit the wall, and so the team was like, maybe they just mean he tapped the wall and he's okay. And the team comes back on the radio and says, oh, you hit the wall? Okay, can you drive it back to the pits? And Lance Stroll kind of comes back with a little bit of sass and goes, no, I'm in the effing wall. Obviously the team, as I said, I don't think the team had a visual, so it's not on them fully, it's not their fault that they can't see it, but I thought Stroll's response was pretty funny. And 20th, Pierre Gasly. Oh my God, Alpine. Oh, this team. If you're an Alpine fan, I'm sorry for what you're about to suffer through this year. Not even lap 1, lap 0. On the formation lap, Pierre Gasly radios in and says something's going on with the gearbox. And then lap 0.5, they tell him to pit and retire the car because the gearbox is dead. It's going to be a long season for Alpine. They are stinky this year. So thanks for watching this video. Max Verstappen wins again. But we had more storylines today. We had Kevin Magnussen playing defense. We had Ollie Bearman's debut. We had some decent racing. This track, as crazy and chaotic as it is, it produces some solid racing for Formula One. So, best race of the season. There's been 2 races this year, so do what you want with that information. We got Australia in 2 weeks. I got to do an Xfinity race recap here in a couple of hours. Then we got the NASCAR Cup Series tomorrow if you're up for that. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.